It has been a week of Wuthering Waves already, and so much new information and tech has been discovered within the game. And because of that, you guys already know that it is tier list time. I feel like there's a lot of things that needs to be discussed within Wuthering Waves, so everybody gets an understanding on how team building works, how we should be looking at units with their strengths and weaknesses, how the roles and stuff they should be playing, or what other roles they could be playing as well, and overall seeing how both sides of the community feel. When I say both sides, I'm not only mean NA, I also feel like we should value CN's opinion as well, which I think a lot of you guys already do for the most part. But we shouldn't take everybody's opinion face value. We should dive a little bit deeper, try to understand why everybody are saying the things that they're saying, and ultimately figure out if it's true for ourselves. Which is why for this video, we're going to be reacting to Tomias's video while also providing our own tier list throughout the video as well on the CN tier list. He's going to be providing us a true translation for it so that we can get a better understanding of how the CN community is feeling, as well as compare it to Prydwen, which I believe Tomias compares it to Prydwen in his video anyway, so maybe we won't have to do all of that so much. Anyways, let's see what CN has to say about the current state of Wuthering Waves. So currently at the start, they have Jiyan and Encore as the two best DPSs in the game. I know my boy EO has been hyping up Encore for the past few days, even before release, and I believe she was on the lower end of the tier list in the beginning, not for CN if I'm not mistaken, but I know for NA on Prydwen's original list, I believe Encore was sitting around maybe tier 1, tier 2, but now she's at tier 0, tied as the best DPS with Jiyan, and I think that's really interesting to hear because I ultimately don't know why she's considered that strong. I did pull her, I haven't been really building her though, but I can possibly get a gist or see exactly why, because she's probably the character that utilizes the team switch tech mechanic the best out of anybody within the game. Calcharo and Lingyang being the second best main DPSs in the game is also really shocking to see. Lingyang has notably within NA been ranked as one of the worst characters in the game, so to see that CN thinks that he actually has a very strong value within being within a team, it makes me want to see how they ultimately feel. Tier 2, Jianxin and Danjin, I don't know if this is essentially ordered, but the fact that Danjin is considered tier 2 kind of has me questioning what they're actually doing with her. I don't know if this ultimately means that they're only considering her like her strength like in a team, because then I could kind of see how she kind of drops off, because I believe her ultimate strength comes in her being a very selfish character, and Jianxin just kind of does whatever damage, so I'm not surprised she's this low. Within the hybrid category or sub DPS characters that can play multiple roles, more than likely is what this meaning. We have Yangyang and Sanhua at the top. I believe everybody just puts Yangyang on the tier list just because they know from reading her kit, she seems like she's going to be really good and a really great character, and from what we have from CBT2. But Sanhua has been sitting at the top of the tier list for a minute for CN because this character has a lot of great utility. I just released a video the other day talking about the strength of her, not only as a sub DPS, but in my video I was mostly talking about her possible strength as being a main DPS. She may not be tier 0 main DPS, but I believe she's at least probably around the lower end of tier 1 when it comes to playing a main DPS role, and the fact that she's the best sub DPS in the game, her value overall just means that she's just a great unit to pull because of how flexible she is, and she's free for everybody, which is insane. Mortefi shouldn't be no surprising. Mortefi is on everybody's team, so the fact that he sits here is not shocking at all. Yangyang and Jianxin, these are also characters that probably shouldn't be too shocking, or maybe if you haven't really explored their kits and see what their utilizer can do to the fullest extent, which we'll get a better explanation here, these characters actually have some true value to them. And I've been seeing CN has actually been loving Yangyang a lot recently in comparison to Mortefi and Jianxin, at least with all the clips I've been seeing. And then our bottom 4 hybrid characters, again, not really a shocker. Tao Chi, tier 2 is the lowest I give her, which is why I don't agree with NA having a tier 3. I don't think any character is that low up in the game. I think everyone has like some form of bottom role within the team. But in my eyes, if we're going to make them equivalent, I think T2 represents B tier, and I think that's the lowest how she goes. Same as Alto, Rover, and Yanwu. And then the support, no surprise, Verina, best support in the game. There's really no other support that contests what she does. She doesn't require any on-field time to be the greatest supporter she is. She just does everything you need that a support needs you to do. And then Baizhi, similar, just a worse version of that. So she's just a tier lower.
Jiyan is the first rate-up limited character in this game, and rightfully so, because he is extremely powerful and very user-friendly as well. All you have to do is come in, turn on your ultimate, and all of your attacks are now buffed by the dragons you can see on screen. Use your
massive damage
cooldown, and for the rest of the time, just spam your auto attacks. And it's even user-friendly in the sense that you can just hold the left-click button and it'll combo away by itself. Extremely strong.
I didn't even know he could just hold left-click.
In slot, and his best partner Mort is also on his banner as well, so you'll have an easy
he has everybody that he needs.
Best in slot team right from the start.
Jiyan makes perfect sense why he's the best DPS in the game. He's really I honestly call him the face roll character. He has, like you said, the best units that he needs. Mortefi is his best friend. Mortefi amplifies his damage, especially when he's in his ultimate. And he just honestly destroys everything with ease. No surprise, Jiyan is this good. It also kind of makes me question on how they're going to replace him being the best DPS in the game when he's such a easy unit to use, have so much versatility with the current set of units that supports him. Because see, as you can see, he doesn't even need another 5-star to make him the best of the best. Mortefi is really the most of what he needs, and you just slap a support on him to ultimately give him a little bit of extra boost. But overall, Mortefi and Jiyan is what makes him the beast that he is. So, too fire.
Next, we have Encore, actually a very strong tier 0 DPS unit that is from the standard pool as well. However, for most of you guys, this is only going to be a tier 1 or tier 2 unit, because just look at her rotation. The perfect rotation as above is going to be QE into a teammate skill into E. When the secondary hit lands from E, you swap instantly, animation canceling it, and then you swap back with the R, which is the ultimate, into E, and 4 auto attacks and a heavy attack into the secondary stage of the ultimate, into 4 auto attacks.
I like that.
E, animation cancel with a dodge, and then a heavy attack. I mean, if this sounds way too much for you, then yeah, she's only going to be a tier 1 or tier 2 DPS.
I like that though. So it seems that she is pretty similar to Sanhua, but even more than Sanhua, where that her strength lies in the fact that you have to be an execution heavy person. You have to be the player that has the skill to implement a lot of inputs with her, execute them almost perfectly or really well, benefit with the whole team switch mechanics, and to truly show off her strength as a unit. But if you aren't able to take her to that caliber, to that level, then she's going to sit a bit lower. Still strong, tier 1 is still strong, but the fact that she jumps up a tier based off of a player's execution really shows the depth of this game and how good Encore really is as a unit. And then she has other units to support her, like Sanhua, who is the best sub DPS in the game, or just hybrid DPS as a whole. I'm going to try to stop saying sub DPS. And then similar to any other character, slap on a support, bada boom, bada bang, your team is fully ready to go.
At her teammates Sanhua and Baizhi are both free, and incidentally, her best weapon is actually Yingling's limited, but the standard weapon as well as the monthly.
Oh, that's also actually really good. The fact that Yingling's limited weapon is one of her better weapons, that means not only pulling for Yinling, you get Yingling's priority weapon for herself, but now you're able to swap that in between in the Tower Diversity and have Encore use it as well. So building Yinling and Encore with on the same account is actually a really good idea.
Next, we have the Verina, the only 5-star healer in this game, and an extremely powerful support that will fit in pretty much every single team available. And all you have to do with her is jump in, auto attack 3 times, press E, press Q, and press R to ult, and then when she has that jump animation, use 3 more basic attacks and her QTE bar is full, and get out of there. Swap to your main damage dealers. She has an impressive 210 and max 240% resonance gain, which is insane, and allowing your team to do more and keeping them alive.
No reason to really enhance on really what he has to say from their point on. She's a character that doesn't require to be on field much at all. and she does so much by doing so little, and she's extremely great at what she does. Verina is just Verina. Until we get a support that does what she does but better, or on a similar level, she's probably going to be the best support in the game for a while, which is meaning she is a very future-proof unit. Also, we're going to skip Yangyang because Yangyang isn't in the game, and I don't really want to talk about a character that's not in the game yet, so I'd rather wait to hear actual opinions once we fully get her to see if anything changes, so on and so forth.
Sanhua is the last tier 0 character and one that everyone will get for free on day 5.
Yes,
She's
sir.
actually best in slot is a sub DPSing slot too, because she has a very short burst window, as you can see on screen. Her best rotation is going to be R into the ultimate, E with the Q followed up, and then swap out. Let your main DPS do the work, and before the ice disappears, swap back into her, long press heavy attack to explode the icicles, and then press E one more time and then exit out back into your main DPS. You can see here on screen, we've just swapped in, and we're about to ult right now. You can see here's the ult with a massive amounts of ice, and your heavy attack actually can explode your ultimate as well. So here we go, slices through, and the heavy attack explosion. Oh, look at that
DPS,
absolutely beautiful.
She just is insane. Sanhua is freaking insane. This is why she's one of my favorite units in the game, because for just the cost of $3.99, you have one of the best highest damage dealers within the matter of seconds. If you play her in a sub DPS role, she literally is only on screen. I believe her rotation lasts for 6 seconds, and she builds so much energy. She intertwines with a lot of units within the game, more than what this over here is showing. She not only works good with Calcharo and Encore, she also works still pretty good with Lingyang, and she also has a great flexibility of working with Jiyan. She works well with almost every with every 5-star DPS in the game. There is no reason why you wouldn't use this character unless you just personally don't like her, which is cool. And then on my stance of her being a really good choice if you need a main DPS, I'm going to stand on that. I'm going to continue to test that and try to prove that, because I believe there's a capability where her having a support back with Mortefi and the whole heavy attack thing that I came up with the fact that you could go into your basic attack 4 and 5 of her regular heavy attack and go into a heavy attack loop, which I found earlier, which we'll cover in another video, and she's essentially able to maximize the damage buff that she gets from Mortefi. This character is insane. There's just no, until we probably lead out of year 1, I don't see her dropping below tier 0, maybe even 0.5.
Starting us off in the tier 1 category, we got none other than the single target DPS king Calcharo. Now his rotation is quite unique. You can use his E 3 times in succession, and then using a heavy head to trigger mercy. After that, you use your ultimate with R, and then your basic attack gets turned into the death messenger. You use a 5 basic attack combination, and the last one can be animation cancelled with either dodge or another E, and you do that 3 times, so 3 times 5 of these combinations, and you can swap out to your sub DPS, in which case it's going to be Yingling or Sanhua, and they do synergize really well. They can use the standard banner weapon or even Jiyan's banner weapon for Calcharo, an absolute beast.
Yes, sir. I think the only thing I've heard at least kind of rough for Calcharo is, I think they said the broadsword free 5-star weapon that we get. It's good, but it's not the greatest for him. I heard that you probably rather want Jiyan's weapon, but I need to look more into that. I also kind of disagree on putting him in tier 1. I feel like I will probably do similar to what NA is doing, where that instead of having him as tier 1, Prydwen has him up here as tier 0.5, which is probably where I will put Encore as well. These characters are similar to where they require a little bit more execution in order to play them. I'm surprised they don't have Encore as hard, but I think probably because Encore sits in between like a Jiyan and a Calcharo, where she isn't as hard to play with Calcharo, but or it's as hard to play it like Calcharo, but she has the capability of having an execution barrier to maximize her damage output. But I think her and Calcharo sits on a pretty similar tier. I'll probably put Encore in front of Calcharo just because she seems like to have a little bit. But they both have pretty good versatility with different units. They kind of just sit on the same tier because both of them require a level of execution to get to the point of being as good as Jiyan.
Next, we've got the 4-star unit to Mortefi,
Mortefi, the man, the main man, the legend.
#1 support is the best in slot to support Jiyan, and he adds bonus damage to your heavy hits as well. There's not a lot of things to say about him. He's not going to be your main DPS or one that's going to be showing up on the field often, because what he does is basically come in A, which is basic attack, E, and then double A attack into E, and then use your ult if you have it, and then get out. That's all he does. He can have some concerto entrances and exits, outros to do some bonus damage, but you won't see much gameplay from him at all. But a very, very good support in the back.
Yeah, Mortefi is one of those units where I think he's probably going to be a part of the meta for a good little bit. As long as you're a character that's able to abuse and really use his outro skill bonus, which I believe amplifies your heavy attack damage, he's always going to be a unit that you're going to want to use. And I think we got to explore more characters like similar to, like, I'm going to bring it up like I did with Sanhua, where is that she has a usability of being able to use her heavy attack pretty frequently in heavy sequences. So having the buffs that Mortefi provides, similar to Jiyan, him buffing Jiyan, is going to be very important for those type of units. Again, I think he's always going to be within the meta for the most part. He's always going to provide some form of strong support for a character. It's just only a matter of time of how many more units benefits from the buffs that he's provide. And I think Mortefi is pretty cool. I also want to see him in a main DPS role possibly, to see what he can particularly do outside of just being a sub. I know that's probably not that's definitely not ideally how you want to play him, but I just want to see it.
Next, we have Yingling, a 5-star DPS.
This is the one I want to see.
That personally, I'm not a huge fan of. Basically, you're not going to be on the field most of the time, and when paired up with a DPS queen like Sanhua, all you're going to do is basically come in at the opportune time, use R to enter buff state, and then use 5 base attack combos, press E, and then use an aerial to land attack and into a single kill.
He just burst out damage.
And let your main DPS do the work. But because he's a 5-star, of course, there's some synergies with Sanhua, and you can see that the ice damage buff coming out from Lingyang is going to buff Sanhua even further. They both have quite short burst windows.
Yeah, they kind of just complement each other really well. Yeah, I like that. Lingyang is one of those units where I think he's going to be underdeveloped for a long time. And unless, again, someone in CN does it, or rightfully so, someone in NA. But a lot of people, especially NA, are immediately writing him off. Like, even here on Prydwen's tier list, they have him tier 2, ranked with like the worst characters in the game, and I think that's kind of disingenuous to this character's strength. I think he's a lot stronger than what people give him. I think everybody just kind of cut him off from their experience with him within CBT2, and nobody has truly sat down and gave him the time of day to really see how strong this character can be. I also saw a lot of people switch Sanhua from being a very strong unit with him, but he and Sanhua, like Tamayas already said, they still have a great form of synergy together. It's just his downside is pretty similar to Tao Chi, where that his limitation comes from the fact that he does not benefit from a lot of different units in the game. He's kind of really only stuck to using Sanhua and then one of the healers, but outside of that, he really can't do much. But I think I keep hearing that his damage is actually pretty massive once you have him kitted out. So I personally want to see for myself how far you can take this character eventually. I did actually pull him. I lost my 50-50 on the Jiyan banner, which is fine because I didn't want to win it anyway. I just wanted to see if I did get him within, like, I think I only did like 20 pulls. If I did get him, I was going to be cool with it. Like, hey, I barely spent any of my currency. I got him really early in. But the fact that I lost my 50-50, I'm able to guarantee myself Yin Lin. So I'm not mad at all. The future's looking good for my account.
Jianxin is my favorite unit across both close beta tests because she
Jianxin
does
is
it all. She can
interesting.
shield,
She's
heal,
mad
and
interesting.
also have iframes to
Oh, she works with
reflect enemy
Calcharo too?
attacks, making her one of the best overworld characters in the game. However, later on, as we enter the DPS race stage of the game in towers, you will need multiple DPSs with short burst windows, and Jianxin unfortunately does not do that. But her entrance with QTE and into a heavy attack, not waiting for the counter, with multiple basic attacks and a heavy hit into an R will allow you to clump all the enemies up together while dealing decent amounts of damage and letting your main DPS finish the job.
So, it seems like her ultimate issue is that she's a master of none. She's good at everything, but she's a master of none, which is fine. I think having a unit like this within the game kind of shows you where the balance of the game teeters, of like where you kind of need to be to see like if you're going to be a support unit, well, what things do you need to be in order to be one of the best support units in the game, and vice versa with the DPS. Now, does this hurt Jiyan? And to a degree, it does hurt her in this form of in-game, which is Tower of Adversity, where you need to have the ability to do burst damage and speed. But the fact that she can actually help Calcharo, the fact and group a lot of those enemies up together, I think that's where her strength comes into play, where she has this whole gravity pull in and able to help DPSs dish out a lot damage a lot easier, because you're just having all these units right on top of each other. Jianxin, I think it's going to be one of those units that with the more units that come out, she's probably going to either become stronger and stronger, or she's probably going to get power crept. It just depends on what these other units provide in the future, but I do think that at this very moment she sits a fine line of being in the middle. I think tier 1 is a perfect placement for her because, again, she's a master of none, but she's good at everything.
Yangyang is the free 4-star unit.
Now, this is who I want to see, because they've been playing Yangyang a lot and seeing.
Interesting is that if you don't have a sub DPS built already for the team, she is going to be the one size fit all in the meantime. She's going to be able to clump the enemies together as well as deal some decent AoE damage while you try to fit the final piece into the team. You can see here
that looks good.
Swapping either with QTE or entry into an R ultimate to gather all the enemies, and then into another E AoE with the landing attack, and this allows you to deal some decent damage and clump the enemies together for a fast and quick
I like
finish.
that. I like that. Yangyang, I think for the most part, she has been used just because she does like some really good grouping and does like very stylish combos and stuff with a lot of units in the game. But having an AoE similar effect to like Danjin, but on a free unit, is actually really good because, again, being not only will DPS increase because characters are doing higher damage, but the fact that you can kind of centralize where a lot of your enemies are going to be and not have them all spread out, and which, if a lot of enemies are spread out, is going to waste time for you to traverse between each unit. But if you can group them together, do a lot of DPS on them all at once, then it allows you to burn through time a lot faster, and having a unit like Yangyang to a degree to be able to do that seems really good. Now, it seems like what I'm looking at here, though, they don't have a main DPS slotted with her. I don't know what this here is saying. Maybe it kind of means that she can work with any main DPS in the game, which ultimately makes sense. But I like this. I like the fact that they actually use her. I like the fact that she's actually pretty solid. Yeah, and she's a sword user, so she's going to be using the same weapons, if I'm not mistaken, as Sanhua, so you can build both of these units together, and they're both free.
Last but not least, the final tier 1 unit is going to be the
Baizhi.
healer Baizhi. Now, as the only two healers, one of the only two healers in the game, if you don't have Verina, she is your go-to. You can cheese a lot of enemies by just running away a bit and then healing up, and then your team is ready to go. Her entry is going to be using her ult and then 4 basic attacks into E, into 2 basic attacks, into a heavy attack, and then get out, because by then your team should be well enough and healed up, and she doesn't really have any other cooldowns to offer in the meantime. So
yeah, she's pretty simple.
Your team in, let your DPS
okay, that makes sense. Why?
Baizhi
she's a whole tier below
to have the heals. Overall, you know what, free is free, so yeah, Those are the tier 1 units. Now, personally,
Yeah,
I'm not going
it's
to go
very
over
easy.
all of the tier 2 units. Of course, Danjin is a very, very strong character, and in the right hand,
I'm
you can put
surprised she's tier
0
2.
damage while keeping her almost low HP and deal so much insane damage output to the bosses. But this is the final breakdown of the CN tier list for the tier 0s as well as the tier 1 characters.
Appreciate you,
More on the
Tamias. Appreciate you. I wonder why they have her so low. It's not even that it's really a bad thing, like her being tier 2, but everybody in NA praises her so much that it's just very shocking that she's there. Now, before we end this video, I want to do my own personal list. I already kind of had in mind who I wanted to do, and it's probably not going to look too different from what the current meta is and how everybody's feeling. So just to pop this really quickly. And all right, this is my placements here. I'm not able to do a dividing part here with the mains, hybrids, and support. So I tried to keep in mind where I'm placing them. And it's in that order. So like we all said earlier, Jiyan character face rolls, does mad damage. Really easy to pick up and execute with, and he rewards you tremendously currently within the game with the fact he's able to work with a 0.5 character like Mortefi, and then work with one of the best support in the game. It just ultimately allows him to be and do what he wants. Sanhua, I'm going to be praising Sanhua as often as I can because this character is freaking sick. She's one of the best 4-stars. She is the best 4-star in the game with the versatility that she has, not only with being a sub DPS, but having that amazing burst damage as a sub DPS, working on so many teams with units like Encore, Calcharo, even Jiyan, coming down to Lingyang. We could probably find even more later on down the road with who she benefits. And then also, in my opinion, having the capability of being at least a tier 1 main DPS with partnering up with characters like Mortefi. And of course, not much to say here. Verina, best support in the game. She just does everything you want a support to do without needing to be on the field that long. Great unit. Encore, Calcharo, pretty similar. Great DPSs, similar to Jiyan, but requires some form of execution, which prevents them from being on the same tier as him. Also, the fact that this character, especially here, uses the switch tech within the game, probably the best out of any user in the game, and provides so much constant damage with being on and off the field. And oh my god, Encore is just, I can't wait to truly see everybody really labbing this character, because she's probably going to even be more insane. I wouldn't even be surprised that even though she has this execution barrier, is if she comes up here in the future, kind of where CN currently has her at the moment. But right now, I haven't seen enough yet. I think I'm going to put her on a similar levels to Calcharo. Both really good units nonetheless. So yeah, Mortefi, if you need a character that strictly only plays the sub DPS role and you're playing characters like Jiyan, Mortefi is your man. He's probably also going to be within the meta for a little while. Danjin, I have always been the believer that she's been overhyped. I think that she is a good unit. T1 is not in a bad position at all, but I think she is a little too selfish to the point that the benefits that she provides when you swap out of her, it feels like she does nothing to benefit the team. She's only there to receive benefits, because the benefit that she provides only affects these two units here, and I don't know if it's that great of a benefit for the Rover MC of Havoc, and I definitely don't think it's that crazy for Tao Chi. Lingyang, this is a character that's underdeveloped, that's under-researched, that's under-labbed. More people need to get in the lab, work with him, and see what he can possibly do in the future. I think the fact that he has a strong team comp with Sanhua automatically makes it so that he has some form of value or strength and should be no lower than here. I would not be surprised if he even shifts up, being listed as better than Danjin and possibly moving up here in the future as we either get more units or as people discover more things. But at this very moment, we don't have any facts to prove that, so I'll keep him right here. I don't think he's down here with these units at all. Havoc, honestly, for the Rover MC, not too many people talk about them enough for me to have a true opinion on these units. I'm just kind of going with the people and just mimicking what they do. Jianxin's utility of being a master of none but good at everything is what prevents her from being here. Because she's good at everything and good enough at it, It doesn't make her feel like a unit that feels, in some words, lackluster or kind of weak. But she does have a form of limitation or a cap of how high she can go because she's a master of none. But she provides some form of support in helping with units like Calcharo in late game in order to bunch up enemies and allow him to increase his DPS and kill enemies a lot faster. So she has some form of benefits there. If she can continue to provide that for other units, as well as possibly maybe have a unit that can benefit from her shielding and stuff a bit better than any of the other characters in the game, she'll probably move up. But there is a small possibility that I think out of any units within the game, especially the 5 stars, she could be one of the first ones to get power creep. Chixia's Alto and Yang are 3 units that I think, again, similar to Lingyang, not enough people are investing into these units. That doesn't mean that these units are great and they're secret top tiers. I just think nobody has truly looked into them that much because, for one, a lot of people just aren't interested in them. 2, a little bit of things they did try to look into from CBT2, they didn't find too much investments from them, or at least any strong enough worth to continue to invest into them. So it's just a no-brainer, no surprise to me that other people haven't tried to. I want to personally try to do so, but there's so many characters I gotta look into that I don't know when it'll take me to get to these 3. Then we have Yangyang. Yangyang, she is currently being developed mostly by Jiyan, mostly for her grouping. They really don't talk too much about her damage output, so I pretty much agree with them putting her in the tier 2 placement, if I'm not mistaken. No, they put her in tier 1. I need to look more into her, but we would just agree with Jiyan on this one. We'll agree with Jiyan. I also don't like the fact that they put her here as a support on Prydwen. I know that she can help out the team in an abundance of ways, but I just feel like she's more of a hybrid unit than a straight up support. Which is kind of why, if this is what I think it means here, I kind of agree with Jiyan, at least how they're categorizing her. But we'll move her up to T1. And then Baizhi, just a worse of Verina. But she does what she needs to do. She's going to be one of these characters that as long as Verina exists and you have Verina, or by the time everyone eventually gets Verina, you won't need a Baizhi ever. And then when other support units come out, she'll probably lose value even more. But for right now, she is pretty solid and can essentially support you when you need to, which is all she really needs to do. And then Taochi, she's at the bottom of the tier list for now. I know I said I don't like the fact that they put her there in CN and NA, but her true weakness is that there aren't enough units within the game to benefit the strength that she's providing. And I think that she's a character that will move up the tier list as more units come. Maybe not up here. She'll probably roughly sit around here somewhere. But as more units come into the game to benefit from her buffs, because I believe at this very moment, at least from my studying, I haven't looked into every unit. I know Sanhua can possibly benefit from her outro skill, but I don't know if it's essentially enough benefit to move her up in any way, even for any character in general. But we'll see. I think Taochi has some potential. It's just going to take some time with her, but I'm pretty sure we'll find out eventually. That's my tier list though. I hope you guys did enjoy this video with our explanations and how we went over all this. I know this is a long one, but hopefully you enjoyed anyway. Remember to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. We're on the road to 1K. I know we're almost there, baby, so let's get to it. I appreciate, again, all your love and support. Remember to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And also remember to believe in the you that believes in yourself. And I'll see you guys in the next one.